everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. I am your host, Rebecca, and I recap live trials so you have something to listen to while you're crafting out there. Currently, I'm working on, I have to show you what I'm working on. Hold on. We're covering a new trial today. This is the trial of James Crumley for the shooting that occurred at Oxford High School on November 30th of 2021. Now, his son, Ethan Crumley, who was 15 years old at the time of the shooting, has already been, he's pled guilty and been convicted and sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences. Yeah, he's never getting out of prison. And his wife, Jennifer Crumley, she's already had her trial, and she was the first parent in this country convicted of involuntary manslaughter for her son's actions, negligence related to her son's actions or her inactions regarding her son. So we're going to talk about that case today. So let me show you what I'm working on real quick. Hold on. I'm participating in this event. It's called Get Your Weird On. And so I picked this weird little frog painting. So I'm doing this little froggy here. How cute is he? Okay, it's a diamond painting. I also crochet, do watercolor paintings, and whatever else I feel like doing. Anyway, so let's talk about what happened on day one. We get the opening statements, very, very brief. And I must say that I covered the trial of Jennifer Crumley. You'll find that podcast under Crafting and Crime Daily on YouTube Music. So I covered her trial. So a lot of this information is going to be the same if you listened during the coverage of that trial. But I felt like the prosecution kind of tightened their arguments up. He's sort of going in a timeline format with the presentation of the evidence, where I thought it was a little bit more piecemeal in the presentation of evidence with Jennifer. Now, it'll make more sense as we start getting into the coverage, the recap. But during his opening argument, he talked about how James Crumley purchased the gun. It's a Sig Sauer 9mm. He purchased that gun on November 26th. Now, that is the day after Thanksgiving during 2021. That was the day after Thanksgiving. Now, mom's at home. She's waiting to go Christmas tree shopping, and dad is out with his son, Ethan, buying this gun that he wanted. So he gets home from purchasing the weapon, and when they put the forensic analysis person on the stand with a digital timeline, I'm going to tell you what happened after that purchase of the weapon. So the prosecutor also pointed out that when they received this weapon, that when they purchased the weapon, it came with tools to keep it safe, including a gun case and a cable lock, which the cable lock was never used. There's pictures of this case after the shooting. The cable lock wasn't even opened. It also came, it hasn't come to light yet, but just as an aside, it came with a booklet, a hand booklet with a warning to keep this away from minors. Anyway, so the prosecutor went on to explain the difference between murder and involuntary manslaughter. He said, in murder, you're looking for intent to kill somebody. And we know in this case at the Oxford school shooting, Ethan Crumley murdered 4 teenagers and injured 7 other people. And he intended to do that. That was his intent. But James's intent was he never intended for his son to go into that school and commit that shooting. So then he explained, he's charged with involuntary manslaughter, and he tells the jury you can find that one of 2 ways. You can either you can find that James Crumley had a legal duty to some kind of legal duty that he failed to do, and he's a parent. You have a legal duty as a parent, or you can find that he had a willful disregard of the danger that he had created by purchasing this gun for his son. So the defense gets up, and their basic defense is, that's not true. It's not true. It's not true. James had no knowledge of his son's plans. So that's the testimony. So the first person on the stand is Molly Darnell. She was an educator at Oxford High School. Now she's an educator, but she wasn't a teacher in a classroom. She was in a classroom that had been converted into an office, and she was doing at the time what they call coaching. She would coach other teachers or students. They would come into her office and she would coach them. She no longer works at the school. She works for the school, but she works from home doing homeschooling. Yeah, she is not, I don't think she could go back there. And she got tearful at times. So she walked the jury through what she went through that day. She was one of the victims. She was in her office. They showed pictures of her office. If you walk in the door, there's 3 people that had desks in here. One was on one side, one was on the other. As you walk in the door, straight ahead, that was her desk. And she had just got done walking through the hallway, had sat down at her desk and had opened her laptop. And she had noticed when she was out in the hall as she's opening her laptop, she starts to see kids running by her because she left her door open. She starts to see kids running, and she said it wasn't like the vibe wasn't really like they were running towards a fight or something. She said it just was really eerie. They were quiet. She said it was really quiet, and they were just running. And then the next thing she heard was this alert over the overhead for everyone to get in there. It was their active shooter alert. So she wanted to get up and go close her door and put this lock on the inside. They call it I think she said it was I forget what she said it was. It's a lock that you put on the inside of the door, and so nobody from the outside can open it. The only way anybody can get in is if someone on the inside opens this door. So she was trying to get to the door. She sees the shooter out in the hall, and he points the gun at her and shoots. And he hits her in the left arm. So she stands up on the witness stand. She takes off her jacket, and she shows, like she said, you can't really see it from the front. If you're standing like this, you can't see it. So she turned around and she showed where it entered. It was a through and through. It entered one side and it came out like right here. And then there was like a line across where it had like seared her skin. So she recognizes that she doesn't really realize she's shot for a little bit of time. She continues to close the door. She puts the thing on the lock on the door, and then she hides. And then she's calling people and not telling anybody she's shot. So when she really realizes she's shot and that she needs help, she calls the person in the classroom next door. And at one point she said someone did try to get in the door, and she thought it was the shooter, so she wouldn't let him in, but it had been the police, but she wouldn't let him in. So she calls the woman in the classroom next door, the teacher in the classroom next door, and she says, don't tell anybody, but I've been shot, and I need some attention. So I guess that teacher notified somebody, and they came in and they got her. So of course she was really teary when she actually had to talk about all this. And she had found a way to put a tourniquet on it while she was hiding there. And then when she got out, they redid the tourniquet and took her to the hospital, and she was released that night and sent home. So the next person on the stand was this forensic examiner, an officer who had responded to the shooting, and he had been asked to find the video footage of the shooter. So this officer explained that one of the things he did when he was looking for this footage was he wanted to identify the shooter. He wanted to make sure they had all the footage. So they had footage of this, they had footage of the shooter. He was wearing a dark hoodie, and they have him coming out of the bathroom the shooting occurs. He goes back in the bathroom, murders his last victim, and then he comes out and he turns himself in. And he just walked the jury through every minute of what they would see on the footage. Now, to my knowledge, they didn't show the actual footage of the shootings to the jury yet. I don't know if they're going to. I don't know. But you could see that this was just seared in this man's memory. He said he has seen it thousands of times from every angle. And so they just couldn't figure out who this shooter was. He had glasses on. He had the hood up. They didn't know who it was. And they never saw anybody go into the bathroom that was dressed like that. So finally, someone mentions that this is Ethan Crumley, and they learn that they go back to earlier. They learned that he had been in the office earlier. So they go back to the footage of him going in and out of the counselor office earlier. They see what he was wearing at that time. Then they go back to the other footage, and they do find where he enters the bathroom. Obviously, he changed his clothes, puts on this dark hoodie, the sunglasses. It goes out with the weapon and starts shooting. So he walked through all of that. Then he went through a digital timeline of the cell phones. He pulled the dad worked for DoorDash. He pulled the DoorDash documents that show every place he went from the day that the weapon was purchased till the day of the shooting. So he walked the jury through all of that. On November 26th, the day the weapon was purchased, that was at 12:08 p.m. He found GPS data that showed he was at the gun store at 12:08 p.m. But by 1:03 p.m., the gun is now in the hands of Ethan Crumley, and he is showing it on his phone. And he posts at 1:06 p.m. Instagram footage of him showing off this gun. Ethan Crumley showing off this gun. Now, this is stuff that Ethan posted, not James. And James, at the time that this is posted, he found GPS footage that showed he couldn't pinpoint that he was at the house, but he said he was within 62 meters of that house, which is pretty darn close. So you could probably assume that, yeah, he was there. Or when Ethan has this gun and is taking pictures of himself with this gun. So that's kind of important. So now I want you to see, he does this digital timeline of the day of the shooting with regard to the parents. And I wanted you to see that, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that footage. So it lasts, I guess, about 10, 12 minutes. It's not terribly long. But one of the things that I want you to listen for, the prosecutor asks this witness periodically, did he go home? Did they go home? And the reason he is asking that is because they become aware of what their son has done on this math paper. That's why they're called into the school on the 30th. Ethan was found with this math paper that he had drawn a victim laying on the ground having been shot, and there's a picture that he drew of the 6 hour on this math paper, and some statements made that he needs help, and it was a very disturbing math paper. So once they learn about that, did they ever go home and check to see if the weapon was secured in the case and that the ammunition was somewhere else secured? Because you certainly don't want to secure them together. It is until after the shooting, that afternoon, that James Crumley finally goes home to discover that the gun and the ammunition is missing. So take a listen to this timeline.
Now we're going to move on to November the 30th. And we'll go step by step from what you were able to discern from all of the evidence that you had to review your disposal. So in the morning, November 30th, were you able to tell what time the shooter was dropped off at school?
After 7:30 p.m. What a.m.?
So Be able to pull surveillance video for this? This is exhibit 122. 7:46 a.m. on the 30th?
Correct.
Tell us when you recognize him, please.
He got out of the car a second ago. He's the last one walking up.
Right there?
Yes.
He was dropped off by his father?
Correct.
Exhibit 123, tell us where James Crumley went after that.
At 8:04 a.m. he was at home.
Okay. And then exhibit 124, where was he?
At the horse farm again.
Okay, so 9:04 a.m. So 7:46 a.m. he dropped off his son. He was home at 8:04 a.m. He's at the horse barn by 9:04.
Correct.
Do you know what time that Jennifer Crumley got to work?
About the same time, 9:04.
So this is what we're looking at here.
That's Jennifer walking into her place of employment.
This is exhibit 125.
Yes.
Okay. And this is November 30, 2021 at 9:04 a.m.
Correct.
Now, do you know if she received a phone call shortly after arriving?
Yes, she did.
So exhibit 126, what do we have here?
That's from the call log obtained from her phone from the school.
Okay, so we have a missed call at 9:24 a.m. on November the 30th.
Correct.
And then we have a return call at what time?
9:27 a.m.
And how long is that phone call?
That's 5 minutes, almost 6 minutes.
So is that 5:43 is 5 minutes and 43 seconds?
Yes, it is.
Now, next in the timeline, 9:31 a.m. What are we looking at here?
That's the screenshot or a picture of a math sheet homework that the shooter had.
Okay. So this was sent to whom?
To Jennifer.
To Jennifer Crumley?
Yes.
Okay. Exhibit 128, what's this?
That's the full-size image of it, of the math sheet.
So did you come to learn there were actually two different math worksheets?
Yes.
Okay. And this would be referred to as the altered one?
Correct, it is.
So this was sent to Jennifer Crumley at 9:31?
Correct.
Right. It's exhibit 128. Exhibit 129 is what?
That appears to be an email of the math worksheet.
Here's exhibit 30. This is what contained in the email?
Yes, that's the original.
So this was emailed to Jennifer Crumley at 9:32 a.m. Is that right?
Correct.
And the scratched out version was texted to her at 9:31 a.m.
Correct.
Now this is exhibit 131. This is at 9:33 a.m. So this is 1 minute after that original drawing was sent to Jennifer Crumley. What are we looking at?
Jennifer telling James, call now, emergency.
Okay.
And then she says again, emergency, 2 minutes later.
And then at 9:38 a.m., what does she send?
She sends the two pictures of the math worksheet.
Okay. So the one that's scratched out in the original, the
Correct.
ones that were sent to Jennifer?
Yes.
And James's response at 9:44 a.m.
James responds with, my God, WTF.
And then
Vet not here yet. It's McElmurray for Kira's horse, still waiting on vet.
okay. So we saw earlier that his location indicated that he was at the barn by at least 9:04 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. And this was at 9:45 a.m.
Correct.
And what did Jennifer write?
Responds back with, he said he was distraught about last night.
James?
James says, we talked about it this morning. Then he asked, you talked to him, question mark.
And what did Jennifer respond?
Responds with, can you call?
That's 9:57 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. And what does Jennifer write at 10:04 a.m.?
She says, heading to a school, I'm very concerned.
And that's at 10:04 a.m. on November the 30th, 2021.
Correct.
Now, did you learn that they both arrived at Oxford High School?
Yes, they did.
And did you learn approximately the time they arrived at?
Yes.
What time is that?
It's about
132, 9:36 a.m. You see James' location history that's still at the barn.
Correct.
Okay. And 134, this is the same surveillance footage that we saw Jennifer Crumley arriving at work at 9:04 a.m. This is at 10:06 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. And this is consistent with what we just saw in his Facebook messages when she wrote heading to school.
Correct.
Okay. This is exhibit 126. What do we see here?
It's a call to the school, to the counselor from Jennifer.
Okay, so she left at 10:04, then at 10:07, she called the same counselor who called her.
Correct.
And exhibit 131 headed to a school at 10:12. So that would be the timeline for that period of the day.
Correct.
So do we have an idea of, you said about after 10:30 a.m. that meeting occurred?
Correct.
Okay, and so is this what you base that opinion on?
Correct, yes.
All right, so what do we see here at exhibit 135?
What you see at the top of it is the horse barn, and then he takes a path down Gardner Road, and then heads to the high school.
Okay. So, if I'm correct from what we just saw, Jennifer arrived at work, first of all, the shooter was dropped off at school at 7:46 a.m. by his father.
Correct.
He went to the horse barn at 9:04.
Correct.
Jennifer arrived at her place of employment about the same time, 9:04.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And she received a phone call at 9:24.
Correct.
Then we saw the messages sent from her counselor, and the phone call from her counselor, and the messages thereafter with those two drawings.
Yes, sir.
And then the Facebook messages at directly after to James with those two drawings.
Correct.
Okay. And this shows when he left the horse barn and about the time he arrived after high school.
Correct.
Now, did he stop by his house before he went to the meeting?
No.
Jennifer stopped by the house before she went to the meeting.
No, sir.
Did they go in one car or separate cars?
They were in separate cars.
Okay. Now, we had discussed this particular aspect of the case in a separate hearing some time ago, and there was an original belief that they arrived in one car.
Correct.
Okay, you came to learn that they arrived in two different cars.
That's correct.
Again, it's just foundation, sir. Tell me what happened.
When I originally was watching the video, the system that the school has, it's not continually recording. It only records when there's enough movement in the frame. So if they're too far of a distance away, it's not going to record, even though there might be somebody walking across the parking lot. The sensors don't pick it up. And it didn't, once I saw the second car, what I thought was the first car, pull into a parking spot, the next thing I saw was just two people standing in front of it. So I assumed that they'd come out of that car together.
So, keeping with our timeline here, 10:29 a.m., we have a call log of, what do we see here?
James calling Jennifer.
Okay, how long was that phone call?
7 minutes and 16 seconds.
And based upon what you found on the video and the messages and data locations before they arrived at school?
Yes.
Now, you were able to pull the surveillance footage of both vehicles arriving and their movements while inside the Oxford High School, at least that were contained on surveillance video, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is exhibit 137. I'm going to play this. And just so we know, at the bottom of the screen here, we have a description of the camera, what it's looking at with the time.
Correct.
So this is 10:36 a.m. on November the 30th, 2021.
Correct.
And this, what are we looking at right here?
That's the parking lot of the school on the north side of the school.
Sir, whenever you're able to, give us some context of what we're looking at.
Come to find out that that's Jennifer pulling up right there in that car. And there's James and Jennifer walking up to the school.
Right here?
Yes.
Sir, this is James Denver Crumley in the Oxford High School, I think?
Yes,
Okay.
that's in the office there, and they're being directed around to counseling.
At the bottom of the screen there, it's 10:39 a.m.
Correct.
So it just might actually be a good time for a short break if the court would inclined to take one.
So at this point, the court takes a break, and they come back pretty quickly. That's their afternoon break. And they pick up again where they left off with them, the parents entering the counselor's office. Now, later on, pay particular attention to this meeting. This meeting lasts like 12 minutes. Yeah, they're called into the counselor's office for a 12-minute meeting. And their son is already in the counselor's office. So their son is present during this meeting, and you'll see the son, footage of the son leaving after the meeting. But pay attention, after that, you're going to hear the 911 call that James Crumley makes that afternoon. So this is quick. Watch this footage.
Thank you. Okay, so we were on November the 30th, 2021. This is at 10:39 in the morning. You identified both James and Jennifer Crumley in Oxford High School.
Correct.
Okay. So this was the surveillance video pulled from that day and that time?
That's correct.
Now the clock here that says 12:42, that's incorrect.
Correct. It never changes.
Okay.
Correct.
So the actual time is in the yellow at the bottom of the video. It just turned 10:40 in the morning.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you come to learn who this person was that greeted James and Jennifer Crumley?
Yes, school counselor.
The counselor and the, I think it's an assistant principal, are both in the office for the meeting, and we're going to hear from both of them. They will be testifying.
I just skipped now from 10:41 to 10:52 a.m. Same view, same exhibit. Who do we see leaving the office?
That's the shooter.
And that's 10:52 a.m.
Correct.
Now, this is the same footage that this guy had to look out to figure out who the shooter was and what he was wearing before he changed clothes.
This is 10:53 a.m. Who do we see?
It's James and Jennifer Crumley leaving.
Okay. This is James and Jennifer Crumley,
Yes,
and they're walking out of the counselor's office.
correct. Back towards the front office.
At one point in time, James Crumley was holding a white piece of paper. Now it appears Jennifer Crumley is holding that. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And you just took it back from her?
Correct, he did.
So they leave the building 10:54 a.m. on November 30th.
Correct.
Now, we're going to find out later on that that piece of paper was a paper that the counselor handed them with places they could get him mental health counseling.
10:57 in the morning.
Correct.
Let me know when you see James Crumley's vehicle leaving.
There it starts right there.
Okay.
And turns to its left.
Okay, did James Crumley stop by his house after that meeting?
No, we did not.
We'll move on to, we'll go to exhibit 140. This is a location data at 11 a.m. Where at?
At Meyer.
Okay. That's November 30th, 11 a.m., and that Meyer is where?
To the west of the school, just down the street.
Is that the Meyer you told us about earlier
Yes, it is.
today? Okay, so that's the Meyer you went to on that same day.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And do you know what he does there?
I know he sits there for a while, for a little bit. I think he starts door dashing.
Did he log on to DoorDash yet at that point?
Yes.
Here's 141. This is 11:24 a.m. And this is the same surveillance footage of Jennifer Crumley's employer.
Correct. Coming back to work.
So she's back to work at 11:24.
Correct.
Okay, so this is exhibit 142. We'll go to a Zoom version here. This is November the 30th. This is the DoorDash search warrant return.
Correct.
Okay, so you can, I'm sorry?
Part of it, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, and so this is just depicting the November the 30th date.
Correct, yes.
And so he logged on to DoorDash at what time?
11.
Okay, so that's the time he actually logged on.
Correct.
Correct? Okay. So going back to this version on exhibit 142, there are no logons prior to 11 a.m. that day.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. In fact, we see his first message was 11 a.m.
Correct.
Exhibit 80, exhibit 143. Now, the time here at the top corner, that's 11 a.m. to 11:19 a.m. And this is a map that's been created that depicts DoorDash pickups. Is that right?
Correct.
Pickup and delivery.
The route he took, yes.
Okay. And if you refer back to that DoorDash search warrant return, exhibit 142, you were able to tell that he had 4 different orders that morning until the shooting?
That's correct.
Okay. So, this location history depicts what?
Again, that's the path from the Google search warrant return we used to follow the path down to where he picked it up to where he dropped it off.
Okay. And at any point, did he stop by his house?
No, he did not.
This is 11:19. That's when he got his second delivery?
Correct.
Okay. And exhibit 44, 11:19 to 11:46. What do you see here?
It shows where his first drop off was to where the second pickup was, and then where he dropped it off.
Did he stop by his house then?
No, he did not.
Next DoorDash order is 11:58 a.m.
Correct.
Exhibit 145 here. This is the GPS locations.
Yes, it is from Google. Yes.
What do we see here?
His second drop off in the bottom part of the picture to where he went back up to the Meyer at the top side of the picture and dropped it off.
Did he ever stop by his house?
No, he did not.
This is 12:51 for a DoorDash order, November the 30th. 12:51, that's what you told us was when the shooting started.
Yes.
Exhibit 146, what do we see?
Where his third drop off was at the bottom of the picture, the pickup and of the fourth trip to the drop off of the fourth trip.
Did he ever stop by his house?
No, he did not.
Now, what's the first relevant event on either James or Jennifer's devices after the shooting occurred at 12:50?
An email was sent out.
And this is exhibit 141, a portion of it. This is what?
That's the email header from Oxford Community Schools at 1:09 p.m.
Your Honor, I believe this is exhibit 147.
Oh, what did I say? I'm sorry. Thank you, 147. So this email was found from a search warrant return on James Crumley's email?
Correct.
Okay. And it was sent from Oxford Community Schools to James_Crumley@yahoo.com.
That's correct.
Subject line was active emergency at OHS.
Correct.
Okay. And this was at 1:09 and 52 seconds in the afternoon.
Correct.
Now, were you able to tell from his data locations where he was when he received the email?
He was, he was going to the mire, yes.
Okay, so this is 1:11 p.m. So 1:11 38 seconds, about a minute and a half later, his GPS pinged at that same mire that you went to?
Correct.
Okay. That's exhibit 148. Now, after that email was received at about 1:10 p.m., who did he call?
He called Ethan.
Okay. He called the shooter,
Yes, the shooter.
and that was at 1:13 p.m.
Correct.
And at 1:17 p.m. he tried to call him again.
Correct, he did.
Okay. Now that phone call went through, is that right?
That's correct.
It's exhibit 136. Does he leave the mine parking lot?
He does for a little bit, yes.
Okay. So at 1:17 p.m., we see a lot of different green dots here. Is this the first data location that shows that he left the Meyer parking
Yes,
lot?
it is.
So that was after he received the email and after he called his son twice?
Correct.
Okay. That's exhibit 149. And does he call anybody else at that point in time?
Yes, he tries calling Jennifer.
Okay. That's exhibit 136. And do we know Jennifer left her work that day?
That's correct, she did.
Okay. I'm just going to show a clip here. This is exhibit 150 at 1:18 p.m. So this is after he had that 57-second phone call with Jennifer.
Correct.
Okay, we saw that James left the Meyer parking lot at 1:17. Did he go home then?
Yes, he did.
Now, first, did he receive a phone call from Jennifer?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so this is 1:19 p.m. and how long was this phone call?
10 minutes and 19 seconds.
Exhibit 151 is GPS location from 1:20 in the afternoon, November the 30th?
Correct.
Okay, so that's right after he received that phone call from Jennifer Crumbley?
That's correct.
Okay, and this indicates that he was at the home.
On East Street, yes.
Now, at this time, do we know if Jennifer was on the move?
Yes, she was.
Okay, but she was at home.
She wasn't home yet? No, she was not.
All right. So this is exhibit 152. Where is she at from 1:18 to 1:20 p.m.?
That's her employer. She, Square Lake and Telegraph, south of here.
Now, while she was on that phone call with the defendant, with James Crumbley, did she send any text messages?
Yes, she did.
This is exhibit 133. What did Jennifer Crumbley write to Andrew Smith? First of all, did you learn who Andrew Smith was?
Yes, I did.
Who's that?
That was her boss at work.
So this is at 1:23 p.m. According to the records that you reviewed. Was she still on the phone with James Crumbley?
Yes, she was.
What did she write your boss?
She said, "The gun is gone, and so are the bullets." He replies with, "I'm praying everything is okay." She says, "OMG, oh my God, Andy, he's going to kill himself. He must be the shooter."
And that was 1:23 in the afternoon on November the 30th.
Correct.
Now, did the defendant receive another phone call from his wife after they hung up from that 10-minute phone call?
Yes.
Okay. Going back to the phone log. This is at 1:30 in the afternoon. It looks like a 3-minute phone call between the two.
Correct.
Now, this was at 1:30 p.m. with a 3-minute phone call, so it lasted about 1:33 in the afternoon.
Correct.
What did James Crumbley do after he hung up with his wife?
He called 911.
This is exhibit 154.
911, location of an emergency. Okay, I'm not really sure. I'm at my house. There's an active shooter situation going on at the high school. My son comes to the high school. I have a missing gun at my house. I need an officer to come to my house right away, please. Okay, I'm not going to be able to send anybody to your house right now. So they're on the active shooter situation. Ethan Crumbly, C-R-U-M-B-L-E-Y. C-R-U-M-B-L-E-Y. Sir, I'm going to put you on hold for just 1 second, okay? I have to talk to Kristen Cummings and see if I can do anything for you, okay? We're going to put you on hold. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Crumbly? Alright, I'm going to get your name and phone number, and I'm going to have my lieutenant that's out there dealing with the situation. He's going to contact you, okay? What's your first name? My first name is James. And what is name, Crumbly? Okay. And what's that phone number for you? 248-750-6483. Okay, do you know what your son was on when he left the house this morning? He had on a different sweatpants and then like a gray shirt. A gray, like sweatshirt. Okay. Alright. Somebody's gonna give you a call, okay? I can't give you the time frame because they're right in the middle of all of this. I can't give you a time frame, but we're gonna give you a call as soon as it's possible, okay? Okay. Alright, thank you. Bye-bye.
That call was made at 1:34 in the afternoon on November the 30th.
That's correct.
And sir, if you know, that was before the name of the shooter was made public.
That's correct.
Now, at some point,
So that's so disturbing. They had all that information about their son with that math paper, and they, first of all, didn't get him any mental health counseling. They could have taken him on that piece of paper that they carry out of the counselor's office. One of the places that was recommended was a place that they could take him as a walk-in. They didn't need an appointment. You could just take him there. And they go back to work. And they never go home to check to see if the gun is there until after they hear that there's an active shooter. And then James goes home and sees that there's no gun. So I don't like to play so much video, but I thought that timeline was pretty important. This witness is still on the stand. That was the end of the testimony for the day. So he will be back on the stand today, and he's going to walk through how the parents fled. The officer did, the 911 operator said that the officer would be out there, and they did come out there that evening. They took their cell phones, and then the forensic analyzer is going to talk to you about how they get burner phones and replacement phones, and there's a lot of phones involved, and then they flee. And yeah, so he's probably going to walk the jury through all of that tomorrow. But I do expect that we're going to hear from the 2 school employee individuals that were present during that meeting about what happened during that meeting. Now, that's going to be interesting. So the other thing that's really nice about this trial versus Jennifer's trial is we don't have Jennifer's lawyer. She, objecting all the time, and, she was always in a frenzy, and she didn't know where they were at and what are you doing and where do I find this and that. No, it's been going very smoothly. The defendants made a couple of objections, the defense attorney, but otherwise, we don't have that frenziness that was going on with Jennifer Crumley's counsel. And I will tell you, like I said, when they were first arrested, they both had the same law firm. And what happened, there was 2 female attorneys from the same law firm. So then when they decided they needed separate attorneys, the one lawyer left the law firm so she could represent James. And then the same lawyer, she stayed with her firm and she represented Jennifer. So it's the same 2 female lawyers. It's just now they're not in one law firm. Now they can represent each one separately. It's really weird. She actually left the law firm so she could represent James Crumley. And she's in the crowd. She's in the pews, Jennifer's lawyer. She's there. I recognize her with the curly hair. She curls her hair every morning, very coiffed, So, all right, that's the testimony for today. I'm going to be on Mickey Sunshine Creates tonight. I'm going to be a guest on her show tonight. If you want to tune into that, it's on YouTube at 6:30 Central Time, if you want to catch that. So have a great day, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow for day 2 of the testimony. Well, actually, it'll be Monday because this is Friday. Friday dance. Okay. I will be Friday. We'll cover day 2 recap day 2 of the James Crumley trial. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.